Hi guys, welcome back. We're going to do two more video lessons today. I am out today for a STEM meeting, and then I'm out again tomorrow for a county math meeting. So I won't see you guys again until Friday. So just to keep us on track, I'm going to do another video lesson today and tomorrow. So we're actually going to do two things today. So the first thing we're going to do is factoring trinomials. So I'm going to quickly review from Unit 1. Back in Unit 1, we did problems like this. I'm going to say x plus 3. And what we did is, oh, the pen is not drying very fast, huh? Alright, so what we did is we used FOIL to figure out the answer to this problem. So the F stood for multiplying the first numbers together, which would be x squared. And then the O was the outside numbers, which would be a positive 3x. The I is the inside numbers, which would be positive 2x. And then the L is the last numbers multiplied, which would be positive 6. And then we learned back then that most of the time, many times, the O and the I can be combined together because they're like terms. So this would end up being x squared plus 5x plus 6. So that's what we learned back in Unit 1. What we're going to do now is actually the exact opposite. Whenever we factor something, that means that we are going to take what used to be the answer, and we're going to write it as a multiplication problem. So what we're going to do is, for example 1, let's say we started with x squared plus 8x plus 15. Okay, now we know that we need to break this up into two binomials that if we FOILed them, we would end up with this. Alright, so when I go back up here and I look at what I started with and what I ended with, I notice that the x squared came from the two x's at the beginning. So just like on here with x squared, I'm going to need two x's at the beginning in order to get that x squared. But now when I look at my numbers, I see that this came from multiplying the 2 times the 3. So I need to think of numbers that would multiply to be 15. But then when I look at this number, I see that that came from the two middle terms added together. So in other words, what we want to look for is two numbers that add up to 8 but multiply to be 15. So normally what we do is we start here. And if we think about ways that we can multiply to get 15, we could do 1 and 15, we could do 3 times 5. But we want the factors that would add up to 8. Which must be those two right there. So then I know that this is going to be x plus 3 and x plus 5. Now, the way to check all of these problems is to FOIL. So if I FOILed this back together, that would give me the x squared. The last ones would give me the 15. And then I'm going to end up getting this 8x because the outside is 5x and the inside is 3x. And that together makes up the 8x, which is right there. Alright, so now we're just going to practice. And that is basically all that we're doing today. Now what's going to be different might be the signs, and the numbers obviously are going to change from problem to problem. But the pattern is the same. So let's say we have, for example 2, let's say we have n squared well, let's stick with plus for a few more minutes. Plus 9n plus 14. All right, now some people use this kind of idea where we want to multiply and get 14, but we want it to add up to 9. So we need to think of factors of 14 that would add up to 9. And hopefully you're thinking of 7 and 2, because those add up to 9, but they multiply to be 14. So that tells me that these two binomials are going to be n plus 7 and n plus 2. And again, we can check this by foiling. If we multiply the n times the n, we get n squared. If we do 7 times 2, we get 14. And if we do the outside, we get 2n. The inside, we get 7n. And those two combine to make 9n. All right, let's try for example number 3. Don't forget that if I'm going too fast, you can pause the video or replay it if you need to. Let's say we have m squared minus 12m. Let's see. How about plus, oops, sorry about that, 27. Okay, so if we make our x, we want to multiply and get 27, but we want our two numbers to add up to negative 12. All right, so when we think about this, I want to multiply and get a positive, but they're going to add together and be a negative. So that tells me that they must be two negative numbers. And then I'm thinking of factors of 27. I'm thinking of 3 and 9. So if I multiply negative 3 and negative 9, I'll get 27. If I add them together, I'll get negative 12. So that means that this would be m minus 3 and m minus 9. And again, you can always check by doing distributive property. Okay, for the next one, let's try for number 4. How about n squared plus 5n minus 50. All right, so once again, see if we can get that in focus a little bit better for you. Move down, sorry. We want to get a negative 50 when we multiply and a positive 5 when we add them together. Now, what I'm thinking this time is that if I'm multiplying and getting a negative, then I know one of them's negative and one of them's positive. Because the only way to get a negative when we multiply is if they're different. So when I add those together, I want a positive 5. So I'm thinking that if I had a positive 10 and a negative 5, if I multiplied those together, I would get negative 50. If I add them together, I get positive 5. So that means that I need to FOIL n minus 5 and n plus 10. All right, one more problem just to cover more variables. If we had, so I'm going to do example 5 right here. We can have variables, more than just one variable is what I'm trying to say. So let's say we had a squared minus 9ab minus sorry, let me think of a good one. How about negative 36? Okay, so we want a negative, oh wait, sorry, I forgot the other b's on there. Sorry. Okay, so we want a negative 36 when we multiply and a negative 9 when we add them together. So, since I'm multiplying and getting a negative, I know one of them has to be negative and one of them has to be positive. And when I think of factors of 36, I think 6 and 6, but that wouldn't give me negative 9. I'm thinking 4 and 9, but that wouldn't give me negative 9. But if I did negative 12 and 3, that would give me negative 9 when I add them together and negative 36 when we multiply. Now, what's going to be different about this one is that in order to get a squared, we need a and a. And we just decided it was going to be minus 12 and plus 3. But we also want to get a b squared, which means we need 12b and 3b. And again, the way to check these problems is to go through and FOIL them back together. So that would give us a squared, and that would give us negative 36b squared. And then our outside would be positive 3ab, and our inside would be negative 12ab. And when we combine those together, we would get the negative 9ab. Alright, again, if you need to go back and rewatch this video or even just some of the examples, please do. And when you are done with these examples, this video, you can pick up your worksheet on factoring trinomials.